It is my great pleasure to introduce and talk a little. Oh, she's just my amazing friend, Connie. She wakes me up every day with her wonderful, positive posts on Facebook, and she is always has a smile, and she's just a great person. I don't know what we'd do without her. Connie S. Gifford was born in Dayton, Ohio, and was employed in the newspaper industry about 30 years. She worked in the graphic arts field and has a degree in visual communication. Connie always loved drawing and creating. Even as a young child, she loved art and bright colors and all the Walt Disney animated movies. Connie became attracted to the blending of colors and how colors mingled on paper, which can only be achieved in watercolor. She took her first watercolor class in 2011 and immediately fell in love with that medium. As an artist, Connie is driven to create strong compositions with bright, transparent colors from a limited palette. Her works comprise animals, landscapes, nature, and expressive abstract work. She loves to watercolor on YUPO paper, which is very hard, and continues to develop and build her knowledge as a watercolorist. She is an associate member of the Ohio Watercolor Society, Western Ohio Watercolor Society, WOWS, and Fairborn Art Association, and networks with local watercolor artists each Thursday. Connie resides in Kettering, Ohio with her husband Jim, and has an adult son and daughter, and son-in-law, and 2 lovely granddaughters. So I want you to give a big hand for Connie Gifford. And yes, she does love bright colors. It's amazing.
Thank you, Patricia. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me today. And Clarice, so good to see you. Sue, and a lot of you, I was here, Patricia, a couple years ago, and I did a demo on watercolor necklaces for everybody in here, if you remember. that was me, and
Using watercolor paper.
Using watercolor paper. Do we have any watercolorists in here? People that just love watercolor? A couple of you, great. I'm allergic to oil, so I do not do oil. I admire those that do, but I just cannot do oil. I know my friend over here, Clarice, does oil, and a lot of other people do, but I fell in love with watercolor, and then I was introduced to YUPO papers. Anyone in here painted on YUPO?
Oh, yes.
Okay. It's a love-hate type of situation with YUPO. If you like control, you won't like YUPO. If you're a free spirit and you just love to kind of create and go with it, I mean, it's wonderful. But there is a way to control it, and I hope today to share some information with you, and hopefully you'll try some YUPO. I do have a handout for you. Now the question is, do you want the handout now where you can make other notes? I'm seeing a lot of head shakes. Okay. Well, my lovely assistant here, Clarice. What is this handout right here? Can you kind of pass that around? I've got 35 copies, I think, and I'm not sure how many we have in here today. But I'm going to pass these out, and that way you can kind of look over some things. For those of you who want to come up around the table and see what I've got all my little things that I use up here. I also brought some of my YUPO work for you, and what I want to do is pass it around. I put it in a sleeve because some of the YUPO I brought today has not been sprayed. For those that work in YUPO, you know you can use Krylon, spray it, and it fixes it where you cannot go back and touch it. Well, guess what? I decided, in case I do want to go back and touch it, the ones I brought today, with the exception, I believe, of one that's in a frame, that one has been fixed and sprayed. So I'm losing my lovely assistants here. Would your granddaughter like to help us?
Yeah, that's it. She wants you to walk around.
Well, just pass these to different tables. I've got a lot of them over here. You can pass them around. Yeah, just, and there's some other ones. That way you can kind of take a look at everything. On the handout I gave you, I describe, if you want to know a lot about YUPO paper, it's plastic, okay? So when you put the paint down, it just has a mind of its own that goes every which way. So you really have to change the way you're thinking about working in YUPO. So you can make your watercolor a little bit thicker, which is easier to work with. There's a lot of different tricks with that. So there is a website for those of you that want to learn all about how they made YUPO. It's been around for a long time, but right now in the art industry, a lot of people are finding that YUPO is just very, very unusual. Your colors are very bright. I do like traditional watercolor paper. I do go back to that. But YUPO seemed like it just brought another side out of me as an artist. I would get into using watercolor paper. And for those of you that understand what it's like to overwork a painting, you've worked on it, you've got to that last point, and you go back in, and it's muddy. I mean, you've just ruined it. And it's a little bit frustrating. Watercolor is a little difficult sometimes. But what happened was I moved over to YUPO and just played. And it brought out this other side of me that made me excited. I took a watercolor class on color with Nita Leland. She helped me so much to understand my colors. And I decided I'm using a very limited palette. I have 3 sets of go-to colors that I use. I have them up here that I just love. And a lot of the work, everything you see is only 3 colors. Okay. Now, she is a member here. Okay. Are there questions? Are there questions? I mean, I'll take questions too.
Is 3 inches standard back for watercolor?
It really depends. There's no set rule, but you need to have at least 2 inches for the mat. Now, the ones I'm passing around fit in a 16 by 20 frame. I buy my YUPO in a large sheet and cut it down. Now, I do have, if there's time, I've got one drawn up here, and it has mascoid on it. You just, if you touch the YUPO too much, your oil from your fingers get on it. It's a little harder to work with. And you can pass those around. Yeah. This is a 144-pound YUPO.
Okay.
And that's normally what I use. You can buy that in large sheets and then cut it down to whatever size you want. Well, this is just the mascoid that I use, and I talk about that. I like the Incredible Mask, the Frisket. Okay, you might, maybe I should say Frisket. I like the Incredible White Mask Liquid Frisket. That's my favorite. The Windsor brand, as I've gotten older, is more difficult to get that crazy lid open. So I don't know if anybody else struggles with that, but I struggle so much. And it's watery. It's more watery than this. And
What is that?
What is that?
it's on your handout sheet there. It's Incredible White Mask. It's Liquid Frisket. Okay. So, and I like to buy locally when I can. So United Art and Education, I go down there. I go to Hobby Lobby. I like to support our local vendors if we at all possibly can. But they do not carry YUPO, most of them. United Art and Education will carry a pad of YUPO, but the weight of it's a lot lighter than what I'm used to. I like the heavier. So for the heavier, you can get that. Cheap Joe's Art Supplies, maybe Jerry's Artorama, or Dick Blick. And if you make a trip to Columbus to Dick Blick, they probably have it in stock there, which I don't know for sure.
Do you make prints off these?
I have made cards and things, yes. Yes, you had a question?
When you first started passing it around, you said, I haven't cellophane because they might not be dry yet.
They're dry, but I decided that because I did not spray a fixative on them. If you would spill coffee or drip something on it, it's going to change the design. It might help.
To get that frisk off, do you just rub it
Just it
with your hand? Or?
with my hand. It's so easy. Is everybody, at least you have an idea.
What did you were just talking about Frisket? What did you say?
This is the brand I use.
Yeah.
It's on the handout.
It's on the handout with my,
Right here.
yeah. Yeah, I tried to make sure you had all the information. Yes?
Do you spray after you finish your painting?
Do I spray after I finish one of,
You won't lose it.
okay, this one, I'm sorry. This one was sprayed.
And what kind of spray do you use?
Krylon. There's two different. There's one that is got a gloss to it, and you have to make sure you're outside when you spray that and cover your mouth with a mask or something because you don't inhale that. And what I do if I spray it, I'm just do. I wait about 10 minutes, and I probably spray 6 or 7 times to coat that. I decided not to spray it anymore. I took a class with, and she's referenced on there, Sandy Maudlin. And she does a lot of YUPO, also Fred Graff. Fred Graff, he does spray all his YUPO. I found that I noticed something in a couple paintings. I was so thankful I didn't spray it because I was able to go back in and take everything that I didn't like off of it, right back down to the white, and then I reworked it. I've had others where I take it to the kitchen sink and I scrub all my paint off of it, and I go all the way back and start over again. The one with the lions, I probably rubbed that one out 3 or 4 times until I got the look I wanted. When that was the nice thing about YUPO, I could do that. I couldn't do that with just traditional watercolor paper. So, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Any other questions? Yes.
I was in a YUPO workshop, and my question was to get rid of the paint.
Yes.
So what do you do? Just take water and wash it off?
You can do that.
It's not too permanent of a...
I use transparent colors. Now, the only problem I get into sometimes, I do love Winsor blue or phthalo blue, and that's a staining color. And just for this group today, I painted my fingernails because I had such stains because I painted yesterday with our group. Yeah, you saw that. You saw that, didn't you, Sue? I painted yesterday, and I had a lot of phthalo, which was kind of like phthalo blue or Winsor blue, and it kind of stained. Now, it does stain your YUPO a little bit, but you ever heard of the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser? Okay. So you can take that, and you can scrub back over that, and it lifts that back up to white. The other thing, when you use, and I think I made a note on there, this was a wonderful discovery I had with our Thursday group because it's just a bunch of watercolorists that get together on Thursday, Fairborn Art Association. We have a room set up, and we just share. We just have a love of artists getting together. And so I had a problem with some of my YUPO because it's plastic. If you put it in a drawer, there will be friction on it. You touch it, it gets oil from your fingers on it. So what happened was, I tried every trick that I'd heard in some of the YUPO workshops. You take your brush. Now, I do use, I made a note on that, the silver black velvet brushes. I have a couple of those that I use. I'd never use my really good brushes because I scrub and scrub because I get an oil slick and I can't get the paint to here. So I'm scrubbing. And I mean, you can see my brushes, they're just like rubbed down. There's no point to them too much. So during Thursday, a couple weeks ago, one of the women that paint with us said, you know what? I wonder if you could use Dawn dishwashing liquid. And on here, they have one of the little ducks because when there's an oil spill, unfortunately, what did they use? And you know what? It was like, you're a genius, Teresa. This worked great. So now, what I do before I do anything with my YUPO, I've got my little bottle, I put it on a paper towel, and I scrub this and let it dry. So my YUPO is prepared ahead of time because I've got a couple batches of YUPO. I cannot tell you what happened to it, but no matter what I was doing, the paint wasn't adhering to it.
Really?
And it over and over, no matter what I did. So
Alcohol?
I tried alcohol, what other thing? I tried watercolor. I was told, take watercolor pencils and scuff that up. You know, press harder with your brush. I tried all that, and it still didn't work until I used the Dawn dishwashing liquid.
So you treat your paper with Dawn?
I treat it before I paint. That's a nugget for you right there.
Do you mix it with water?
Hang-
That's a silly question, but
hang
do you
on.
rinse it?
I rinse it off. I rinse the suds off. No, there's no silly questions. I rinse it right off. Yes.
Do you take the Dawn straight out of the bottle or do you dilute it a little bit?
I wet my paper towel and I squirt some on it, make sure it's, and then I run it under. I do both sides because sometimes what I'll do, I think something that I passed around, I might make a little mark on it with a watercolor pencil on the edge to know that this is the side, but anymore I do both sides and then let it dry. Yes?
You can do the same thing for palettes. If you have a plastic palette or you have even a ceramic palette, you can use it for that too. It works.
The Dawn dishwashing liquid? Yeah, I tried the sandpaper on my palette and it kind of scuffed it up a little bit. Yes?
Do you use any non-traditional tools like toothpicks or straws?
Oh my goodness. You need to see what I have up here on display at the table. Let me.
Could you use bleach, like the spray bleach?
No, I wouldn't use that. I don't know.
Get color on it.
It would get color off, but it might really mar that up. So maybe a year later you go look at your painting and it's like, surprise.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't, and I would never ever use a hairdryer to dry this. So I'm going to start throwing some paint down so you can see what I'm doing.
Okay.
But if you use a I'm sorry? Okay. Or was there a specific painting that you
You
liked?
said you only use 3 colors on all
Yes,
those.
several.
Well, the
Okay. Primary colors.
Painting, I only use 3 colors.
Yes, each painting. And I tell you my favorite go-to colors. Quinacridone gold, quinacridone red, and Windsor blue. Those are my go-to colors. And I got that from Nita Leland, just taking 2 of her color workshops, because I wanted to define myself as an artist and figure out, where do I want to be? I was the best one at making mud. I'd have, something that was just great, and then I would go, and then it would be mud, and then I'd go back, back and forth. So I really wasn't getting a good handle on color, what I was using. So I decided, I'm a starving artist, of course. We're all starving artists, right? Especially in this whole area. There's a lot of artists, and I want to save money, so why not 3 colors? I don't need all these other colors. Even though I take a workshop, I know my colors, I know they work for me. So,
Teacher,
yes.
what were those colors again?
My all-time favorite ones?
Yeah.
Quinacridone gold,
Oh, yeah, okay.
quinacridone red, and Windsor blue.
Okay.
And I use mostly Windsor watercolors.
That's follow the.
Red and
Phthalo, yeah, the
Phthalo blue.
phthalo, or Windsor blue is the same as phthalo. If some people use Daniel Smith. I mean, it depends on what works for you. Any other questions?
How do you spell quinacridone?
What about acrylic paint?
Well,
There you go.
let me tell you something. Sandy Maudlin teaches this Is everyone familiar with Sandy Maudlin? If you're not, I mean, you can look her up. Patricia and I took a class with her, and she works with watercolor and liquid acrylics. okay, together in combination. And I didn't bring anything with that because, and your tape batik, but you're using YUPO to get those effects. So it's back and forth with both of them blending together. And she also teaches a class on tape batik, which I didn't take. I just was working more with the watercolors. Any other questions? And then I'm going to, I was going to pass this around, but I passed other things around. I got a chicken, because I'm a little chicken today, okay? Because I got a lot of people in here. So I've got this chicken. I drew it out. I've got it masked. Yeah.
So,
I masked my chicken out because I should know the type of chicken this is. This is one of those black and white ones. Okay. And it was just, I have a friend who had chickens. I'm going to run this around real quick so everybody can see it, so you don't have to get up. Oh. Did I undo? Yeah. Okay. I got a tail back there I'm not used to.
And you treated this first with Dawn?
I treated it with Dawn, and hopefully I had it in a bag.
Oh, cool.
So, oh, I'm sorry, this is Gator board.
Yeah.
So,
I ordered one that's real big. Can you cut those?
Would you repeat the latest name that you said?
It's on here.
It's on the paper.
it's on the bottom. I referenced my artist, okay? You're welcome. That way you shouldn't have too much writing to do. So,
So how do you attach it?
just pieces of tape. I double back the tape on there.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's just a piece of painter's tape doubled over.
Is Sandy the one that uses the acrylic?
Acrylic, yes, and oh, she does fantastic work. And if you could can go to her blog and look at all that. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Workshops?
You know, I've had a couple people ask, and I am entertaining that idea. So, I have some business cards up here. I would just need to know where you're going to go with that. Okay.
you want me to pass? You want me to do the?
Well, the cards are there. I brought my iPad because I keep my pictures on it. I don't know if you can. Here's my chicken, okay? I have a friend that has these chickens.
I love that chicken.
And my granddaughters and my great niece had never held a chicken before. So I said, every child needs to be able to hold a big plump chicken. You know, there's just nothing like it. So I took that picture and I thought, there's just something about that chicken. So now the other thing, like I said, I've got all these, and I don't know if you just want to stay back. You're welcome to come up, and I'm going to start, but I've got all these little tools. Somebody asked me, I forget who asked me, okay, do you use anything else besides a paintbrush? You use everything you can find. It's got texture, which is so cool. So these rubber stamps, when I took a class with Fred Graft, man, he had these, and he numbered them, and you had to sign them out and sign them back in. But these are actually used for clay. If we have anyone in here who works in clay, for textures. So I've got an assortment of these. I have.
What, do you do paint on them?
No, I use them when I throw my paint down. I'm just making texture in there. Like if you see the elephants that's over here, I use texture. I just use anything I can find. The other thing, as I'm promoting these local areas, Hobby Lobby. These are color shapers, okay? I use these to apply my liquid mask. I am just terrible with ruining brushes, even though, you know, you clean it, you coat it, you do all the things you're supposed to. But these are great, and I can pass these around. But Hobby Lobby carries these now. I spend a lot more money ordering these online, yes, but you can get them at Hobby Lobby. And of course, I've got the magic nib, and let's pass this way and all that. And I use, to lift things out, these nice little Q-tips. I use a scrap piece of YUPO and an X-Acto blade, and I can cut if I have a specific area I've lost my white, or I can cut my own designs. You can do that. I have a little metal template that you can buy. And what I do is I tape just the area, because once in a great while, I will lift the mask up. I try to save the eyes. When I'm working on animals, I really want to get that connection with the eyes. So if I accidentally lose that white, what I do is I just tape this off. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, you keep those, you use them in the house. And I just do my pattern and do that. This is the Mr. Clean shower squeegee, and this is from Sandy Malden's class. She is an expert of using this to paint with and to pull. Patricia experienced that. She was a master of that. And my wonderful husband over here, Jim, he took this out to the garage and cut it down because it's a bigger, and I've got the other little end of it over here. But see, you can get these at Meijer's. so sometimes they're hard to find, but it actually says Mr. Clean on the top part of that. So that's a nice little tool. Toothbrush. What I'll do is I will put my frisket and I'll splatter it, which makes a pretty cool design. What else do I have here? Sponge. I decided I was at a get-together with my nieces, and they were drinking wine, and they had all these, and I'm thinking, oh, we're not going to throw those away. So I cut different patterns at them, and I thought I can stamp around on that because it's so much fun. All right, any other questions? Oh, rollers. A ripped up credit card here. You can use that and draw with that. I find this bamboo quill. I do want to say, be very careful with this, because you can actually scrape and mar the paper, okay? And I did that one time. I was working on something. So you have to be careful. You can make texture with it, but just be very careful. All right, are we ready?
We're ready.
Use any gels? Do you ever use any gels?
Gels.
Car gel or beaded gel or glass gels or?
No. I am strictly into watercolor. But for you, you could try that, because that sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? To think that you could take that, because Sandy Malden spent, I think she said, over a year developing with the liquid acrylic and taping and doing some different things and develop something. But yeah, you could try that because it's plastic. I'm not sure how it would come back off.
I don't know.
But you know what? Buy a pad of it and experiment with it. That's what's really so fun about YUPO. So I think I'm gonna go with my my go-to colors. How's that? Okay. So, and I hope I protect this table enough, because yesterday I found out that I've got probably a little spot on my palette that leaks. No, we don't have a mirror. So, you can come up. I'll even give you the brush if you want to try this. because what's going to happen is, if we don't like it, we can wipe it back off. Okay. You know, sometimes I paint really wet. Now, the problem with that is it's going to take it a while for it to dry. Now, I use these little spray bottles over here. I took a workshop with Tom Lynch, and he does a lot of spraying, and I like to spray the colors on my YUPO. And but I got to make sure they're primed up pretty good. So I'm going to I'm just, we're just going to get wild with this. Who's my timekeeper? I don't want to, if I start hearing.
Not me.
45 minutes.
Okay.
45 to 50 minutes.
45 to 50 minutes, okay. So I'm going to start taking some colors here. And I'm just going to, now, this will not be a traditional looking chicken, okay? All right. So if you're thinking we're going to have a traditional looking chicken, my brain doesn't work that way. I mean, I love color, and so it's like, we're gonna see if we can get, because remember when this dries, I'm gonna lift all this off of there, and it's gonna be white.
So where it's
That's the
beating
plan.
up is where it's treated beforehand?
Well,
It has brisket on the beating up parts?
yeah, and sometimes, like I said, I had this in my case,
Okay.
and what happened was it probably rubbed against some stuff. So, but that's okay.
Have you ever used the ink?
Ink? No, I haven't.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Connie, could you put your picture down or something? Thank you.
How's that? Does that work?
Yes.
All right.
So you could have started this with ink as well.
I could have, this is YUPO. I could have done a lot of different things with this. Okay.
I know it's
There,
hard.
there.
Clarice, have you used ink on it? I haven't done it, YUPO. I'm just.
All the time you sit
I'm trying
with
to,
me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't say I finished anything.
Well,
Some iridescent inks.
like I said, I'm just going to kind of rough it up a little bit here.
Chicken.
Now I brought, what else did I bring? I'm trying to do a bee on a flower, but thinking about the wings has really got me thinking about how am I going to go about this, So,
Connie, are those the three colors you mentioned?
these are my three favorite colors that I'm working with right now. So,
We had another question. Do you ever
sure.
use black?
Do I ever use black? No, I can get a really rich black with these colors, just playing around with them, as long because that phthalo, I mean that.
That's a dark.
Oh,
That little red.
yeah.
Have those dark tones.
Yes. In fact, later I can show you. I did a spider monkey, and okay. Now you see how that's bubbling up there? I mean, I got some puddles in it. When you're working with YUPO, depending on what your composition is, sometimes these can be in like a pool, and you want to kind of watch that. So I'm going to kind of move them around a little bit, and I'm just.
Turn this way, go.
Looks like feathers there.
It does.
Put the color on there.
And the masking comes off pretty easily?
You just, where's the one that, one of the ones I passed around? Peel it off. I can put it back on. Get a hold of it and peel it off.
Do you have to be very careful you don't scratch when you're doing that, though? Scratch the paint off? How do you do? You just rub it?
Yeah, just pull it off. I can put it back on. That's not a problem.
A daisy?
But she's getting a really nice
I'll be out of the way that way.
that I don't think you did.
Hey, now, Connie.
Yes.
Okay, so when you're done with the YUPO, isn't that a very fragile piece of art? I mean, if you get it wet, all your paint's gonna come off.
Yeah. But
Do you treat it with anything?
you can spray Krylon on it. There's
what on it?
Krylon.
Okay.
You know, that's
That's that clear stuff to like
yeah.
put in the cake.
You have to be outside in ventilation, okay? It takes it 5 minutes to dry for Krylon. Yeah, it's pretty fast, especially if you're on a, oh yeah. My trick is I take this, the reason I use a gator board is because at my house, I've got a very active household. And my daughter and son-in-law and 2 granddaughters and my sister live with us. So I have a very active household. And we have a new kitten that is very, very inquisitive. This is an art cat. I mean, all I have to do is and the cat's with me. So it drinks the water. It drinks the water, yes. But what I do is I sit this on the table, propped up underneath my fan, the dining room fan, and it dries it a lot faster. That is a good trick to know about YUPO because we're impatient. Well, you can't use a dryer on it because what will happen, it will bubble it up and you'll have this big round piece of YUPO. You want to try? No? Anybody? Anybody want to play? Now, I do have to take the water off my brush, and I'm not exactly set all the way up here.
Was that an 11 by 14 you're working
on? Yeah, I think so. It's a 11 by 15 maybe.
12 by 16, do they come around?
Well, I buy this big sheet of YUPO.
Oh, and cut it down.
And cut it down. And the wonderful thing about taking a workshop with Fred Graft, he'd already figured all the math out. I decided right then and there, perspective was not my friend. He does all this buildings and things, and the angles, that is just not my love or desire. Right. I appreciate ones that can do that and pull it off. But he figured all that out. Of course, he taught high school art for years and years, and he loves perspective. And what he did was he told us, okay, you buy the full sheet and you can cut it down, and I get like 4 pieces out of it. And it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. And plus it's 144 pound, and that works great.
About what's one sheet cost?
Let's see. I think for 10 sheets it was like $60 at Cheap Joe's. You can catch their specials.
That's $6 a sheet.
Yeah. So it's just really. Let's see. Let's do this little color up here in the comb. Now, sometimes what I'll do is I'll start in the background here. And let's
call that a chicken, isn't that a rooster?
No, it's a hen. Yeah.
I'm not a farm girl.
Yeah. It's,
I thought
yeah. You gotta hold a chicken sometime. I'm telling you, there's nothing else like holding a chicken. You know. Well, and we killed chickens, so I mean, there's just like a. And you know, like I said, if you don't like it, you can go back and rub it off. Now see how I'm scrubbing that area? Because I probably have a little, it got marred, it being in the case and all, so, I mean, it's just, now, let's see. These little spray bottles, what you can do is you can dilute, put so much paint in it, and then so much water, and dilute them down. But I will tell you, now, I took a workshop with Tom Lynch, and you know, I got this little set from him. But I will tell you, at Holbein, you can get these, and these work really well.
What is that?
It's just a spray bottle that you can put your diluted down watercolor in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We have different sizes of Hobby Lobby.
Yeah. These won't clog, and that's where you have to watch with some of the generic ones that you buy. This has an arrow, and they're pretty non-clogging. Now, please take some of these and pass them around. You want to see some of the textures and everything? Because I'm gonna throw some green over.
Using alcohol.
I don't. You use the alcohol, and you can do it that way, but I don't like to mix it with my watercolor. You can, some people tell you, take that, 91% alcohol, and you coat your paper first. Like I said, sometimes it works, sometimes it differs. Dawn dishwashing liquid was the trick for me.
And you stay away from oil, like running oil.
Yeah.
Unless you want to use it.
Now, I have a girlfriend that paints with us, Shirley Bauer, and she has used Murphy's oil soap, and she's diluted it down, and she sprayed that on her YUPO the other day, and it just like made this wild texture, and I was like, But I haven't used that yet. So I tried the Murphy's oil soap to work on the paper, but it wasn't exactly, it didn't take care of my major problem there. So I'm just gonna, see, I might have some problems going on here, but that's okay.
Paper on this.
Just a piece of tape. I just took a piece of tape and doubled it and stuck it underneath there. So.
You don't have to worry about wrinkling.
No, it's all plastic. Yeah. And see.
No, it doesn't. Too bad she didn't see it.
Let's see if these are primed up. I tried to clean them a little bit last night. I haven't used salt because I'm afraid of what that would do to my watercolor.
Well, they use it on watercolor.
But I think they find now that they're just not sure about that. So I kind of backed off of that a little bit.
I mean, the long term.
Yeah. So I wasn't really sure about that. And even though I never could get the salt to work the right way. I mean, there's that moment when you put that salt down that I got explosions. I mean, instead of little flakes of snow, I mean, it was just like snowballs this big coming on my paper. And I just did not get the hang of it. But I know a lot of people that can do that.
How did you make it green?
I love that technique.
I used the quinacridone gold and the phthalo blue. And then, of course, I like to, I just like to, I'm just splattering right now because it's going to take a while for this to dry. I don't want to do too awful much because you don't have an overhead fan in here.
Put it in the oven.
No. Chicken tonight. You're thinking we're going to have chicken. Anybody? Chicken, yeah. Let's see.
Yes, you would.
Now she's throwing paint.
Yeah, you just.
You could put it out in the sun.
If it was warm, I would sit this outside, not in direct sunlight, but what I would do is I would have it outside, and then I would have another painting set up and start on it. Isn't that what I do, Jim? Where you at? Where you at, Jim? Okay. Jim. We got two Jims that are going over there. Yes, when I paint, I need to know if we're all going to sit at the dining room table because I have to move all my art things away. But that's okay.
How is that attached to the board? Tape.
Just
on the edge?
I just took a piece of painter's tape, pulled out this much, and flipped it over, and I just stuck it on the four corners there. So.
Wait until your chicken is dry before you bring your background closer.
I can get it pretty close, but what's going to happen is it's going to Now, I've a few of these, I can see I've got a little bit of the frisket to the edge here, so I can get pretty close.
Do we all need to come up and blow on it?
Well, then, you bring a fan?
We need some hot air.
Does anyone want to try this? Because it really is fun. To actually get
Great.
It looks fun.
anybody?
Oh, look at this. I love that.
You,
I like the way your chicken is turning out.
you like that chicken? Let's roll it around here. Let's. Oh, look at that.
Let me see. Ooh.
Yeah, I took that Lin Kuan Zen workshop where you blow the paint all over, and he uses 3 colors. And he said, if you have any problems, bring a can of air, because he had people hyperventilating everything. and so it's just like, okay. But I said, we got a good workout with our lungs.
I've used a straw, Connie, and blown it on through a straw.
A straw?
Yeah, directs the
Oh, we got to use, we haven't even been using our textures. Well, let's see what we're going to do with this chicken.
I like the way that chicken is looking.
You like that chicken?
Feathers. I like the way that's done.
Okay.
I think it has to all do with her masking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Let's see, what else? This crackle one's cool on elephant skin, you know. And you can just, like I said, you can find all kinds of different things. Now,
Now, where'd you get those?
you can order these online, and they give you the website. It's called Cool Tools. And if you do any type of clay, I mean, a lot of people use these for texture and different things, jewelry making maybe. So I'm just not sure how. I want to make sure that, and of course this is taking up some of that background there. And as I said, feel free, if you want to pass some of these tools around, I mean, they're not anything fantastic, it's just some of the things. Here's my watercolor pencils I use. I just want to be careful. Sometimes I'll draw with them, sometimes I'll just use a pencil. But I kind of like the way that kind of slid in there, you know? It's what they call them happy accidents. It just, you know. Yeah. I have Bob Ross mints in my pocketbook today to hand out. Happy little mints if we need them today.
But you have your sea sponge, you could use that.
You could use that, yeah. And okay. Oh, you know, it's a chicken. If I don't like it, I can wipe it off and try it again. You know?
See, now I could throw my pencil shavings in on.
So.
Throw my pencil shavings in on for texture.
I'm the same.
It would.
Well, you're the one that uses the little fruit sprinkles too, didn't you?
Yeah.
To take your frisket off, do you have a special technique so that you don't rub your paint off? Just your finger?
Yeah. Once it's dry, it has to be dry.
It looks like glass.
So, what I would do, I can get a little closer with this. I'm not really. Oh, that eye is when everything's dry.
Okay.
And what I can do is I can send my good friend over there, Patricia, the finished chicken, and you can show it to everybody. Would that work? Okay, because the eye has to be right. You know, there's something about that chicken eye. That's
Any eyes, none of us are.
yeah. You have got to get that eye right. You know, and
Is that like the last thing?
that's normally one of the last things I do. And let's see if I can do it this way.
What I find is amazing with this is that, you know, you can do, wipe it off and redo it.
Mm-hmm. Let's get close in here. Let's see what this is going to go.
Have you done much YUPO?
Quite a bit. I did the batik YUPO where you put all your whites on. Well, that's Green County.
Masking
I
tape,
did.
blue masking
I
tape.
did.
And then you paint over. Then your next value is
See how she,
over.
what she drawn.
And my painting that I did like that last year was second.
Blacks for material.
That's just
Yeah, well, on
regular
cloth.
casserole.
Not on.
Now remember, if I go in there in that chicken and I get some color in there, I've got Q-tips, I've got all kinds of things to go in there and carefully lift it back out. It's not a problem. So never stress out thinking that it's not going to work. But maybe I want it, that's okay. Maybe I want, do you want to paint?
Another happy accident.
You want to paint? Okay.
I'm happy to watch you.
Okay. Let's see. I just really like to add
You can see it drying.
some other.
It dries shiny? No, it's real matte.
And then I made it.
So that's why you would spray it?
If you wanted to spray it, you can.
And sometimes it moves before it actually dries.
Like a,
Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm going to move this around. Yeah. And sometimes you like what you're getting. Now the other thing, I don't think I've done this. So I'm going to use this. Did I tell you about my spray bottle? No. Okay. You can get, it's a smaller Windex bottle. I really like these. And if you tap it, you can get like a burst of little dots. Yeah. So I'm going to try to, you don't want to spray it real hard, you'll get a mist, but I want some dots on here. Can you see that? For those that are up closer?
Yeah.
Whoops, I got a big blob, but that's okay. It's just water.
you don't have to have distilled water.
Nah.
Has to be purified.
Okay. So let's see. Let me reference my chicken again. Any other questions? How am I doing on time? Where's my timekeeper?
Oh, you're going to about 20 minutes.
Because it's going to have to dry.
You take that painting home with you. Do you have to be careful to keep it level all the time?
Yeah, I'm kind of backing up a little bit. Oh, the other thing, you know, this is a cool product. It's called a paper towel. And but do you see the little textures in this? I guess when I'm turning my head, I'm losing the mic a little bit. But these are Costco paper towels that have a different texture. I do not use the Viva because they're I think they got an oil, and I don't use those on YUPO, but that's me. You might be okay with that. But sometimes,
You'll have to join Costco.
or you can get kind of the cheap ones at Myers, but if it's got a little texture to it, you can kind of touch down on here. Can you see how that's doing a texture now?
Oh, yeah, it's drying it up.
Uh-huh.
You got a big blob of blue there.
Okay.
Just touches it.
Now see that other little happy accident? That green decided it wanted to be part of the chicken? Yeah. Well, that's good. I like that. Whoops, I got my color a little dirty there, didn't I? Okay.
So it lightens up as it dries off.
Yeah. And you can go back in and touch it. You know, after I kind of get some of this initial color on here. That was just like too much.
Your purse is ringing.
Thank you.
Does not make you mad. You can block them, but don't just.
Looking more like a chicken, maybe? All the time, huh? And if I don't have enough chicken feathers on it, I can go back and lift those out. So,
And then the car. Yeah.
I don't like that little blob up there. Let's try this. I don't want to do the background where it overpowers the chicken. The chicken is my star today. So.
And you wouldn't worry about putting that like almost horizon or any of that. You would. The chicken's gonna.
I want the chicken to tell the story.
Yeah.
Because it's running from the farmer. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm already thinking about this whole story that's going on. It's Saturday night, and they're trying to figure out what they're
Sunday dinner.
okay. And the chicken has got a mind of its own. It's on a path, okay? So the chicken's the one. Okay, so you kind of thinking about what's in the chicken's mind here. You know, what is going on with the chicken? You know. That's right. So, I don't know what type of chicken this is. There's a specific name. Dominic?
Plymouth Rock.
Okay.
Was that you, Brenda? Yeah.
I know a few.
You raised him when I was a kid.
Okay. Let's see. I'll just get a little bit of this. Now, I think I've got that pretty much color in there.
I see. Red and red. Okay. Gold. Yeah, that. But acrid gold. It's almost iridescent. No, it looks like the kind of thing you would have put on an autumn. Oh, yeah.
Oh. Ladies, while we have a break, remind everyone to eat here because then we can get the room free, okay? So please eat here. You got everything you want.
Yeah, great salad. Yeah, it just doesn't. Yeah. Yes. Like right. I like how you.
Yeah. Well, I need to let it kind of do what it's, yeah. Because I can always go back and help it just a little bit.
You get it perfectly the way you want before you take your frisket off?
Not always. What happens is I think it's working. I take all the frisket off, and sometimes I have to sit and look at it for a while. I'm sure everybody does that with, you know, you turn it upside down, you do this and that, and, you know. I always use my phone, take a picture of it, and then when I'm kicked back in my chair, I'm looking at it, thinking about it. And
It really changes. Or stick a mat around it.
definitely.
They've tried 3 times.
She won the lottery, but she had to send $7,000.
Won the lottery.
See, it's one.
See, I have no idea.
It's nobody. It's not Bobby.
I know you're looking at that spot up there and thinking, that's kind of going kind of gray, isn't it? Well, yeah, let's just kind of add some.
Dry and you rub all that stuff off, then you kind of go
Companies have
back
paid those people to sit there.
and touch up.
That's exactly right. And then once I'm completely happy with it, then I'll put my signature on it someplace. So, but I don't want to add too much more.
Connie,
Because you got to carry it out of here.
That's right.
like she was saying, after you got what you want and you've let it dry.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back on it and get it wet again, aren't you going to obliterate what you got the first time?
Did you see how she?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. What happens is sometimes when you go back in, sometimes when you go back in, the question was, if you see something you don't like, you go in and touch it, it's gonna.
Does it mean, like you got it like you want it the first time and it's dried, and you want to add, and if you go back there with a wet brush, are you going to obliterate what you did the first time?
When you go back in with a wet brush, you have to be very careful, realizing that when you go in, you're going to affect something because it is YUPO, it is plastic, and that's where a lot of people get really frustrated with. You can do that though, but you have to have a plan because remember, I'm a do-over person. If it doesn't work, it's under the sink and I go back and try it again because I learned so much from it the first time. So I would go back in. So like here, like if I go to lift some of this up, I've got a puddle going on there. So I'm going to lift a little bit of that up and I see this. Sometimes with YUPO, if you let the puddles sit, it'll make like a big dark spot, and I don't always like that. So I'll kind of wait sometimes when it gets to a certain part, and then I might take the spray bottle and just do just a little spray because it'll make a texture then. But I have to constantly be looking at it, and you can kind of turn and look. Some of this is dry, some of it isn't. You can see a shine to it. I don't know, can you see? Can you see that shine? So when you get to that point, like here, I might be able to kind of hit a little, because I don't really care for that, the way that's going. But if I mix it up a little bit with that, what's going to happen since that's wet? It's working, it's moving around. Even though you don't think it's moving around, those colors are going all over the place. So. Other questions?
When you wash off your YUPO, does the drawing stay on there?
I use the number 2 pencil, but I do it very lightly, and the drawing's still on there. Unless I'm using a magic eraser and scrubbing it all off, then there might be like a faint line. I've tried the watercolor pencils because you can do that to blend in, but I'm so picky about my colors. So it's just like, the first couple ones I did, I used the watercolor pencil, and I didn't like the way the colors were playing with each other, even though probably nobody else saw that except me. But like I said, there's only certain colors that I really like right now. Now that could change in the future. I could add another color.
So if you would happen to wash the whole thing off, does that change the YUPO for next time?
YUPO's still good. I could use it again and again.
That's for me.
Yes, you can use it again, yeah.
I can tell you from experience, she will do a painting and come in and say, how do you like this? And I'll say, oh, I love it. And 10 minutes later, she comes back in and she's painting something else. I said, where'd your other one go? Oh, I washed it all.
Yeah. There's something I didn't like about it, and I have to, for me to show my work, I have to like it.
You talked about not spraying the paint. When you finally frame them, do you spray them then? Because I would think you'd have to worry about humidity. Yeah, how about that?
If I'm going to sell a painting, you know, like the one, I don't know if you saw it, the one with the circus, I got that in Ohio Watercolor Society. I got it in the show. That's the first time I got something in the show. I sprayed that because I didn't know where it was going. Okay, so if you have something, right now the ones I brought have not been sprayed, but I would probably, if I'm going to sell something, I'm going to spray it to protect it because you don't know where they're going to put it and what the humidity is, and so I think that's a good idea.
What would you spray it with?
Krylon. Krylon, the spray Krylon. Yes. There's 2 different ones, and I can get that information. I didn't give it to you, and that was a recommendation from Fred Graff because he uses the one that's like a flat, and then he used a second one on the very last spray that he would do on his. So yes.
This is probably a dumb question.
No dumb question.
After it's completely dry, if you wanted to enhance it a little bit with pastels, would it accept the pastels that, highlight?
I don't know. I've not used pastels, but I just saw a demo Tuesday night with Western Ohio Watercolor Society. They have a pastel artist in right now doing a workshop, and he introduced pastels and watercolor together.
Yeah.
And it was lovely what he did the demo on, but he said he had to use a specific type of paper, and he had to have his watercolor almost dry. But then he did the pastels on top of that. But that I don't know. But like I said, you could get a sheet of YUPO and have at it, because there's so many things that it's just amazing what you can do with YUPO. So, all right. Other questions? How am I doing on time?
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? I mean, you're welcome to come up here and, yes.
I just wonder if you didn't use YUPO, but you could do the tissue paper or whatever, or the saran wrap and put it down and give you some kind of the same kind of thing.
You can use the saran wrap on top of the YUPO as it's drying. This is wet. I had never had a lot of luck with saran wrap doing that, but you can wad it up and make texture with it too. Like I'm doing with the stamps, depending on what you're working with. Let's say you're doing flowers, and maybe you wanted kind of the texture in the flower, you could do that. But you kind of wait till it's to a certain point. Like I've got like a spot going on here, it's starting to dry, and I'm probably going to stamp something and kind of help that along a little bit. And because I don't like those big dark spots that come. So I kind of watch it as it's drying, but I was talking.
Does it get significantly lighter as it dries?
It can.
It's a lot lighter now.
Yeah, it can. But I could go back in because I had a lot of water in what I was using today. So I can go back in and enhance that. I can spray it. I haven't used it.
Does the sprayer, when you spray, does it bring the color back?
When I spray it with color?
No, just your acrylic, your Krylon. Sometimes it brings the color back.
It's exactly the same. It hasn't affected. Like I said, I haven't used that in a while.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just like
that's good.
A little something
What
here.
about the Krylon moving the paint around?
It doesn't? It's completely dry. Well, that one's not gonna work for me, is it?
I guess you also use burnt sienna. You use as an extra when you're mixing.
Burnt sienna is the magic color that Nita Leiden talks about. I have it there for inspiration. I haven't used it yet, okay? But it's there on my palette. I've been able to mix in such a way with those colors that I haven't used it.
Because I noticed when you're using the Windsor blue, but it's the green shade.
Yeah.
I remember when YUPO first came out, we were experimenting with Halloween cobwebs. Putting it on the paper and then pouring some color on here and there, and then watching it move through the cobwebs and changing and making incredible patterns. But it was being done by everybody, so you look at a painting and say, oh yeah, those are cobwebs. But beautiful abstracts, and it was really fun. And if you weren't careful, you ended up with brown, all the colors.
Yeah.
Three colors.
With the brown.
It was fun. I've done abstracts with that. And then do a big one and then cut it apart and make other.
That's true, Repurpose, yeah.
Those Halloween cobwebs you see spread, they come in a little package and you just pull it apart.
Well, that's pretty interesting, yeah.
And saran wrap over the whole thing, and then use that as a background.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Unless anybody has questions, I think you're welcome to come up and
Does anybody have any questions for Connie?
No. Make sure you get these back.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's amazing. Okay. Thank you, Connie. I have Connie